Hello, everyone. Welcome to BodyBags. I'll be your reviewer for today. I'm Lonnie from Tats. And yeah, I said in my Rose Red video here a couple of weeks ago that this month I'm going to be delving into Stephen King miniseries. And today we're going to talk about the 1999 miniseries, Storm of the Century. And this is a pretty good miniseries. Kind of, and you even get a commentary by Stephen King. Isn't that nice? Now, anyway, so going into the commentary, the inception conception of this was actually pretty interesting. Um, Now you had back in 1990, in 1990, yeah, you had the It miniseries, which was a big blockbuster. Then you had stuff like Tommy Knockers, which did okay and stuff. But then in '94, you had a ratings blockbuster hit with The Stand, and then you had stuff like Langoliers, and then what else was there? Then King decided, they went to Stephen King and said, hey, you're doing really great with these miniseries. You have something you want to do. And King decided, well, I want to remake The Shining. And so they did that, because King, everybody, if you know anything about Stephen King, he always hated Kubrick's version of the movie. Um, and King always, really just disliked Kubrick's movie and always wanted to redo it. So he finally got his shot and he redid it. He redid the book as a miniseries, which I covered on the channel a while back. Then, but the thing was like even in ratings, it wasn't, it really wasn't as big of a hit as like some of his other stuff. And so King kind of figured, like, well, I guess, yeah, I think they're going to taper off now. I don't think I'm going to get to do too many more of these miniseries and stuff. But then ABC came to him again and said, hey, man, you got something you want to do? We're still down with it. And King was like, wow, really? And so he started thinking about, like, well, what book could I adapt, or what story could I adapt, or something. And then, he came up with the idea, like, could I maybe do something original? Could I do something that's not an adaptation of a book or a story or anything like that? And they came, he was coming up with the idea for, the general idea of the story for this. So he went to ABC and he's like, hey, yeah, I have an idea for something I want to do, but here's the problem. I want to do basically a novel for television. I want to do, a mini series, but kind of formatted like a novel. And could we maybe do something like that? Something original, something. I'm keen on the idea of doing something that nobody's seen before. It's not something that everybody's going to be comparing it to the book and stuff like that. And ABC was like, great, let's do it. And so he came up with the idea for this mini series, which honestly, I definitely, if you're a Stephen King fan, I do recommend it. I will say though, it's like, I'm not going to give away the ending, but yeah, the ending is kind of a punch in the gut. But if you're familiar with Stephen King movies and movies and books and things like that, you already know that, yeah, like especially if you've seen like The Mist, Stephen King movies don't always have the happiest endings. But so anyway, the story takes place on Little Tall Island, which is an island that King has used in books of his like Dolores Claiborne and Gerald's Game. I even believe, yeah, at one point they even referenced Dolores Claiborne in this miniseries. And so anyway, so there's a storm coming. It's supposed to be the worst storm in, almost like the worst storm in history. And, they're trying to get their boats put away. They're trying to get their shops put away, all this other kind of stuff. Everybody's like trying to board their houses, all this kind of stuff. And they're talking about like, yeah, things are going to be so bad. Like people aren't even going to be able to stay in their houses. Like everybody's going to have to, we're going to have to gather everybody into the, community center and stuff like that. And then you enter in this character of Andre Lanoge, played by Colm Feore, who would go on. At the time he did this, he was relatively unknown, and King, that's what King wanted. He didn't want, because they were talking about maybe like, oh, maybe we could get somebody, let's see if we could try to reach out to like Anthony Hopkins or maybe like Willem Dafoe or somebody like that. And King was of the opinion, like, you know what, don't get me wrong, those guys are great actors and they're wonderful. But, so I think the character would be a little bit more believable if we got somebody who was talented, really good actor, but an unknown. Somebody like, somebody that people aren't too familiar with. And at the time, Colm Feore, he didn't really do much, I think he had a couple of little roles and stuff, but he auditioned, they liked him. The same thing happened with Jamie Sheridan when they did The Stand. Like so many, name actors, really wanted the part of Randall Flagg, but King was like, well, I kind of really want to go with somebody who's kind of more unknown. And excuse me, sorry, just forgive me, sorry, my throat's a little dry. But they wanted to go with somebody who's a little bit more unknown and everything. So, and he said, yeah, kind of the same thing. Now after this, Colm Feore would go on and have a role in lots of movies and television and stuff. He would be in like movies like Pearl Harbor or Amazing Spider-Man 2, Chronicles of Riddick, things like this. So he would go on and have a pretty good career off of this. But anyway, so this miniseries starts off pretty damn brutal because you got this little old grandma lady sitting there. She's watching the weather. She's sipping tea, eating cookies and stuff like this. And she hears a knock at the door. She gets up, she goes and answers the door. And there's Andre Leno standing there. And he's like, born in sin, come on in. And she's like, what? And he's like, give me what I want and I'll go away. Then he has this kind of like wolf's head cane and he beats her to death with it. So he dragged her body in and all this. Meanwhile, you have your main character, Mike Anderson, played by Tim Daly, who, funny enough, Tim Daly was actually somebody that they really wanted for Jack Torrance for the Shining miniseries. And it almost seemed like at one point, like Tim Daly was going to consider it, but then he was just kind of like, no, I don't want to go after Jack. It's like, I don't want to go after Jack Nicholson and stuff. So he turned it down, but eventually he told his co-star, Steven Weber, and Steven Weber was like, oh, hell, I'll do it. So Steven Weber went and he played Jack Torrance in the remake of The Shining. But they liked Tim Daly and they wanted to work with him, so they reached out to him again and they got him to be in this, and he does a really good job as Mike Anderson. You have a good solid cast here. Maybe not recognizable faces, but you may not remember everybody's names. Okay, you have Deborah Farentino, who I don't think she's done much. She hasn't been in a lot of movies. Her sister Linda Farentino, you would probably remember from movies like Kevin Smith's Dogma or The Last Seduction, movies like that. But Deborah Farentino, I don't think she's been as many movies and things as her sister has. But let's see, Casey Siemaszko, you remember from movies like Stand By Me, Young Guns, 3 O'Clock High, stuff. One very familiar face in here is Jeffrey DeMunn. It's like you remember him from a lot of other King adaptations like The Mist, Shawshank, Green Mile, things like that. So yeah, you have a good stellar cast in this. But anyway, so you have Mike Anderson. He's running the local store, and he's everybody's shopping and all this kind of stuff. Now, see, Mike works 2 jobs. He runs the local grocery store, but at the same time, he's also the town sheriff. So, he gets word that there's something's going on. Well, at first, Robbie, played by Jeffrey DeMunn, he finds out that something's wrong at the little old lady's place, so he goes to check it out. Excuse me. And he goes in, and there's Leno. She's got blood on his hands, the dead body's on the floor and everything. And he gives this wonderfully creepy line and everything where he's like, born in sin, born in lust, turn to dust. Born in sin, come on in. And he starts telling me, you were with a whore in Boston while your mother was dying in the nursing home and all this. And he's like, don't worry, Robbie. She's waiting for you in hell, and she's turned cannibal. When you get there, she's going to eat you alive over and over and over again. And so he runs out, and they get Anderson. So him and what's his name? Hatch? Yeah, I think that's Casey Siemaszko's character's name. They go and they actually are able to arrest Lenoge, and then they bring him. It turns out that they take him to the store because Mike Anderson keeps the little jail cell in the back of the store. So they're bringing him in there, and he stops and he's just kind of like looking at all these people that are standing there, and he's able to tell people like some of their dark secrets. Like he goes to this one girl. He's like, yeah, it's like, you got an abortion because you didn't want your boyfriend to find out that you were pregnant, but And so the boyfriend's like, "Oh my God, how could you?" and all this stuff. And he's like, "Oh, before he gets too self-righteous, ask him how well he knows Jenna Freeman. Horses aren't the only thing she likes to ride when the weather gets hot, and stuff like this." And so like he's doing all this stuff, and so they get him into the jail cell, and they realize like there's something wrong with this guy. But in the meantime, they're like, okay, just everybody kind of go back. Get your stuff. Everybody try to get home. Things get too bad. Everybody needs to make their way to the community center. And then, as the story unfolds, like more weird things are going on, and then Linoge is actually able to. Sorry. As the story goes on, Linoge is actually able to trick people into killing themselves and killing others, all this kind of stuff, and he's able to kind of get. He's really, really like tightening the noose around this small community. And what it is, he's trying to terrify everybody and manipulate them to the point where, when he says because he keeps saying throughout the story, "Give me what I want and I'll go away." And, he's trying to like show everybody he has this really horrible power over them, and he could really do some damage if they deny him what he wants. And so, it's really winding up. Everybody's kind of like on edge. You got people turning against each other, all this kind of stuff. Nobody, of course, it's Stephen King, so bad things got to happen to children, and stuff. At one point, he has the children go comatose and all this. So, and, he gets everybody just riled up. And then, finally, he comes in. They're all in the city hall, and he comes up and they're like, finally, tell us what the hell it is you want so we could get rid of you, so we could just go back. And, he's still kind of like, looking at people like, "Oh, you did this," or "Oh, you said that," or, all this kind of stuff. And then finally what he says is, what I want is I want one of your children. And I want to take one of your children and raise them as my own and turn them into what I am and all this. And so Mike is dead set against this, because the character Mike Anderson, he loves kids. He has a son that he loves very much. And he's like, no. He's like, I don't care what you say. We're not giving you one of our children and stuff like this. And he's all like, you have an hour to decide and all this kind of stuff. And then comes the real, like, gut punch of this story. I'm not going to give it away how it ends, but the interesting thing is like you have this community, everybody is so frightened, and it does kind of speak quite a bit to about human nature. It's like, the things that people will do when they're scared enough and people feel threatened enough. And, that's kind of a very interesting thing about this story. Because you have, on the one hand, you have the character of Mike Anderson who is saying, no, we're not giving this guy one of our children. You know what? He could be bluffing. We could all stand up against him and all this kind of stuff. And, but at the same time, they're saying, well, here's the thing. What if we say no? And he ends up, we give up one child, we could keep the rest, like what happens if, if we tell him no, what happens if he just up and decides to kill all of the children and things like this? And so it's very, very powerful. I'm not going to tell you how it ends, but it's a really good story. But just, like when you realize like how it ends though, it's like, this is going to be a bit of a depressing movie, but there are some good creepy moments in it. Feore does a really good job. He's very intimidating, very menacing. You have a good cast. Mike Anderson, played by Tim Daly, he comes off as very likable. He comes off as very, he is the kind of guy like you would want for a town sheriff. He is the kind of guy like, just, a good guy, good all around guy. And, you have, just a really good cast and a good story and everything. But here's the problem though. This was a 3-part miniseries, and it runs at about 256 minutes. So so you're looking at about 4 hours and 16 minutes. So if you're going to watch this, make sure you got time. I'm not going to lie, because it's that long, there are a couple of moments here and there where it does kind of drag out a little bit. It does kind of lag a little bit, but once you get past that, but it does keep you into it. But one thing that is nice though is like it's a 2-sided disc. So, so you got side one. So it's like when you get, as soon as side one is over, hey, you got an intermission. You get up and go to the bathroom, get you something to eat, make, get you a drink, whatever. And then you can come back, flip it over, and you watch side two. So, but yeah, I definitely recommend Storm of the Century. I've seen this a few times, and it really is a good. Some of the digital effects are a little, but other than that, though, it has some good practical effects. When you see the real kind of warlock makeup and everything that they do for Linoge and stuff, that looks pretty good. You get some good practical effects. Just the CGI in here definitely looks kind of dodgy, but anyway, so yeah, I've gone on more than long enough. So that's it. Stephen King's Storm of the Century. I highly recommend it. It's a good miniseries. It's a fun time. Just make sure, though, speaking of time, just make sure you got plenty of time on your hands to watch it, though. So that's it. So if anybody took the time to watch all this, I thank you for doing it, and I appreciate you for doing it. I honestly hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave it a like. If you haven't already, go and subscribe to the BodyBags channel. We have a different reviewer, one for every day of the week. I'm the Saturday reviewer. We have a great bunch of guys. Everybody's doing really good stuff. They're fun videos to watch. We have more fun theme weeks coming up. We have, label weeks and year weeks. Weeks where we review movies from a certain year, all that kind of stuff. We got all kinds of fun stuff. So that's it. Everybody, take care. Have a good night, and I'll see you later.